documentary about my favorite director of all time? Count me in. Hey, what is up, you guys? Film fan 0599 here again, and today we're going to review Spielberg. So what Spielberg is basically about, it's a documentary about, well, Steven Spielberg, my favorite director of all time, and basically what they do is, explore his personal life while exploring his extraordinary career of film, and that's basically what the documentary is about. And going into it, of course, I had interest about this because, like I said, he's my favorite director of all time. I love Steven Spielberg. No one makes movies like Steven Spielberg to me. No one. He knows how to engage his audience, make them, embrace in his worlds that he creates and all that. He's just such a masterful director. There's no one else like him to me. Like, he is the just pinnacle of what directors should be to me. Like, he is an incredible director, and they were going to explore his personal life and explore, his career and all that, and I was very excited to see what they could do with this documentary. And I absolutely loved it. I thought this was a tremendous documentary. I really loved Spielberg. Spielberg is a fantastic documentary. It is incredible. So let's get into my positives with this film. And my positives are, first being, I just love how we explore, not only Spielberg's career, of course, but his personal life as well. The way that they do that in this movie and just, exploring that was great. Like, I loved how they did explore that in this movie. It was really fantastic how they did that. And, getting to see, like, stuff that he went through when he was a kid and all that, like, it was just fantastic, and it was just really good, and the way that was handled was very well. I thought, it was really intriguing to see, even though I knew some stuff about his personal life going into it, it was still interesting to see how the documentary would handle it and stuff like that, and it did a very nice job to me. I really thought it did a really great job. Like, I really loved how this documentary handled that, and it was really good. It was really intriguing to watch, and the way that we talk about, they talk about his, of course, filmography and all that, his, extraordinary career, and seeing how he was just an intern at Universal, and how, he got a deal to just do TV and all that, and then just rising up to the occasion, basically, starting from the bottom and just rising from the top. It's just great to watch, honestly. I really loved that a lot. It was just really fantastic. It was really, really great and really well handled in this documentary. Another thing I liked about this documentary was how they kind of would talk about something about his personal life first, then go into the next movie that they would talk about. Like, I really like how they handled that, especially when they talk about Schindler's List. Because what they do with Schindler's List, they talk about, like, his Jewish, background and all that at first. Then once they talk about Schindler's List and how he made that movie and everything, it just adds even more of an emotional weight of why this was such a tough film for him to make. It was just great. Like, just the way that they handled that was fantastic. It was my favorite part of the whole documentary, was seeing, like, his experience of making Schindler's List. Like, it was really fantastic. I just love the detail that they went into that with that, and with other movies too, like, of course, with Jaws and The Color Purple and all that, E.T. Like, they really do go in depth of talking about, his filmography and stuff, and it's really fantastic. It's really great. I loved it a lot. It was really fantastic, and the way that they handled it was really great. I also love that they got a lot of people from a lot of Steven Spielberg's movies to come for interviews to talk about Steven Spielberg and the movies that they were in and stuff like that. Like, that was fantastic. Like, they just, I'm not gonna ruin it just in case if you haven't seen the documentary who is, like, in this and all that, but it's just great. It was great seeing those faces and talk about their experience of working with Spielberg and, talking about that. Like, it was really fantastic to watch it. I love that a lot about this documentary. The directing was fantastic with the documentary. I thought it was very well shot. The editing was really good with this documentary. Like, I loved the editing with this documentary. It was really fantastic. I loved how it was edited, this documentary. So yeah, it was very well shot. I thought the directing was actually really solid with it. The documentary is like 2.5 hours long, and I was never bored. Honestly, like, honest to God, I was never bored watching this documentary. I was so intrigued by it and just watching, you know, his career, basically. It was great. I loved it so much. Heck, I would have not even minded if this was 3 hours, to be completely honest with you, because that's just how invested I was while watching this and seeing his career and all that. Like, it was so invested to me. Like, it really was. I was never bored a single time while watching this documentary. Like, it was really great for a documentary that's almost 2.5 hours long. It really does keep you intrigued and invested throughout the entire thing. Now, the only problem I do have with this documentary is that they do bypass his, like, 2000s work. Like, really just bypasses it so much. They don't go into great detail like they did with his stuff in, like, his earlier stuff or the stuff from the 80s or the 90s. They just kind of breeze over it a little bit. The only one from the 2000s that they really talk in depth with is Munich. That's it. Like, Minority Report only gets, like, I only felt like they talked about that for like 3 minutes, and that's it. And that sucks, because I love Minority Report. I would have loved to have seen how in-depth they would have talked about that movie, because that movie is really intriguing, and especially of how it was made. So, I was kind of disappointed that with, like, they didn't really talk about Catch Me If You Can all that much. Like, they could just kind of breeze over his 2000 stuff. Heck, they don't even really talk about Warhorse all that much. Just a little bit, I was just disappointed in that. Like, you know, they didn't have to go into a whole big spiel, but you don't also have to bypass them like that. Like I said, I wouldn't mind if this was 3 hours, you know what I mean? So they could, you know, talk about those movies a little bit more in depth. I wouldn't have minded at all, because it was just great to watch, and I really thought they just kind of bypassed those movies a little bit. I just didn't like that all that much, because those are Spielberg movies that a lot of people do talk about, and a lot of people do love, and they just kind of bypass them like that. Like, they only just talk about them, like, a little bit and briefly. That's it. They don't really go in depth of talking about them, which kind of sucks, because, you know, those movies are great. So, yeah, that's really my only problem with the documentary, is that I wish they could have talked about his 2000 stuff a little bit more in depth. You know, like I said, the only one they really talk about in depth with his 2000 stuff is Munich, and I just wish they could have went a little bit more in depth with his other stuff in the 2000s. But besides that, this is a tremendous documentary. If you haven't seen Spielberg, if you love Steven Spielberg, and if you just love documentaries in general, just go out and see it. It's really fantastic. I really loved this documentary, you know, and just getting to see about, you know, Spielberg's personal life and his entire career was really great to watch on screen. It was really fantastic. So it's time for my official grade on Spielberg, and my official grade on Spielberg is an A. It's a fantastic documentary. I loved it a lot. It is so incredible. If you have not seen Spielberg, like I said, go check it out. It's really great. I loved it a lot. Such a fantastic documentary. Definitely deserves an A. But if you have seen Spielberg, what did you think of it? Leave it in the comment section below. And I'm FilmFan0599, and we will see you about later. Peace.